Okay.
Speeding. The Love Hour. Che, you going away. Okay.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Love Hour. I am your host, MrsKevOnStage, and I am not joined, as always, by my husband and co-host, the KevOnStage. Excuse me.
Excuse me. Sorry.
Well, don't we look good? Where are you going?
Going to a funeral.
Oh, who died?
Going to a funeral for my old face.
Hello?
You understand me? Beard coming in full. So I'm gotta go ahead and bury that old face. You feel me? Pleasure.
What's the life and death?
Kevin.
Nice to meet
birth
you
to
both.
It was 35.
35.
Yeah,
Oh, got
He
you.
wasn't able to make it to 36. You feel me? He just grew in this year. Amen. God bless y'all. I'll see y'all at the repass.
So we are joined by my very extra husband. I'm going to do a male version of that shirt because clearly he outdoes me in the extra department. However, I got to shout out my nails because I got my nails done and I asked for everything, quite literally.
You did the most.
I did do the most, and I love them. I'm not going to lie to you. I do love them. So anyway, we are back at home, back in the States, back in the studio, and we have a very special guest with us.
The specialist of guests.
Specialist of guests. Her name is Melissa. She is the owner-creator of the Instagram page Sex Positive Family.
Yes.
Yes. Please tell us.
Welcome to KevOnStage Studios in
We need hand claps, Serena.
Thank you.
Subsidiary KevOnStage.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. I'm like super actually very excited to have you join us today on the show. If you want to tell us a little bit about you, your page, your motivation, all the things.
Yeah. So thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
So my journey to the work around sexual health has been over the last little over a decade. So I worked in sexual health, in HIV and sexually transmitted infections I'm in Austin, Texas, so I'm not.
Hey, shout out ATX.
ATX. Hey, oh yes, and it's living up to it. So yeah, I was working in HIV and sexually transmitted infections. I'm a social worker, so I'm a licensed social worker out of Texas, and in working in that field, I definitely came to understand the importance of sex education and how that can shape folks' sexual decision making and therefore
How
life.
sex education can shape your
pause that
sexual
right there.
decision making. That was good.
Yeah.
I heard
That is good.
I heard
like
that.
that.
I heard that very deeply.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of folks that I was working with, specific to HIV, had stories to share because part of my work I had to interview folks for services, and to be in space with grown men. So sometimes interviewing folks that were in their 60s, newly diagnosed, and who part of their journey was that they had not even disclosed, certainly not their status, but also the fact that they were gay to their family, their parents, still to this day.
In their 60s?
They're 60s. In their 60s.
That's like Jay-Z's mom.
Yes.
She was a lesbian, and then in the song "Smile," I think it was on 444. She said she had to pretend she was a thespian. You know what I'm saying? That's how Jay rapped it. You know what I'm saying? I feel like he did that in the studio with the hand
I
switch.
literally can't take this Men in Black
She had full kids and stuff, and she was a lesbian, both. But the lesbian part into old age before she revealed it, because back then I don't think you could have been as open with your sexuality as it is today.
Yeah, definitely, and we still have a lot of work to do. And so just seeing that the intersection of how those things affect people's
love that word.
lives.
Yeah, it was a great word.
Intersexuality,
affects
intersection.
How people show up. It's important to be authentic and to be able to be fully expressed in that. So there was work, in that regard. I now teach. I teach sex ed. So I teach young people in
still
classrooms.
teach sex ed?
Oh, they do. Yes, they do. They better.
I thought they took it out of schools.
I know.
No,
well, so
they did
this
it
is
with
a really
Isaiah
great
and Joe
point.
last year.
That's right.
Yeah, I think it was
They
last
did.
year.
It was like, do you do like a 2-day course?
So Kev, you're bringing up a very excellent point here. So the thing here in the U.S. is that sex education is not mandated consistently. It's different for every state, and then within every state, it may be different for every city. So, for example, Texas is horrible when it comes to all the things, but particularly sex ed, it's not mandated. So therefore, in schools, it's not required to provide sex education.
Right.
And then when they do provide sex education, it is required that there's a focus on abstinence.
That's what I remember.
Yeah, and so that's in Texas, but every state is different.
Right.
And so therefore, we're not sending consistent messaging to the young people in our world, and then therefore they're not growing up to become adults who are prepared for sexual health and to navigate relationships and bodies and consent. And so thus we have things like the Me Too movement.
Right.
You know? So it's sex ed is hugely important, and it's not just about sex. That's the part that, there's so much stigma, there's so much shame around sex and bodies. But what we need to understand, and that is at the root of the work of sex positive families, is that we are sexual beings as human beings, right?
You ain't gonna tell me twice. You understand me? I be being sexual and a sexual being.
I'm here for that, right?
Can you take the sunglasses off? Maybe it'll be better.
No, I can't. It's a whole thing.
Let's continue.
Oh, I don't need to see, baby. You got to see me. Understands me?
It is really where we're indoors.
Oh, come on, man.
Okay, keep going, Melissa.
I'm just so bright.
Okay, don't keep interrupting our guests. Y'all can troll him in the comments about interrupting the guests.
Don't interrupt. Cool.
So here's the deal, right? So it's not just about that love making, that intimacy.
P and G.
It's not just about P and G. Oh, you're bringing up so many good things. So I'm hoping I'm not going to forget all the things.
Okay.
But yeah, it's not just about P and G, right? Yeah. So it's important that as parents, so part of my journey also has been as a parent. Mm-hmm. So I look really young because it doesn't crack, but I actually have a 20-year-old. So
in what world? In what multiverse? Then you got a baby that's 20.
I'm telling you,
when you 21 in the world, let's talk about some sexual health.
Adult. Yep.
A grown adult?
Yes. She's a junior in college over at UT San Antonio.
Shut up.
Yeah, I know. And so honestly, sex positive families really was both influenced by my work, but also raising a child with attention to sexual health. I knew that I wanted my child, I now have more than one, but at the time I knew that I wanted her to know her body. I wanted her to know pleasure and not rely on someone else to tell her what felt good.
Sure.
Because when they know what feels good, they also can know what does not.
Right.
And that is how they can stay safer.
My parents didn't talk to me about sex at all.
Yeah. Right?
They were just like, don't have no kids.
You have such a calming voice. I love it.
Thank you.
I love when people talk and it like calms me down. I feel like that's your voice right now.
You don't be calm when I be talking?
Okay, so
I watch a lot of ASMR also.
Anything else you wanted to add? That was a fantastic intro.
No, just it's the work that I do is a labor of love. So I support parents and caring adults, youth and family serving professionals around tackling these talks because many of us didn't grow up having these conversations. And so if it's not modeled for you, then how do you know how
it was too taboo and not the game.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that was good.
I'm good at that.
If you don't know how to, if it wasn't modeled for you, then you don't know how to give it out, basically. Yeah. That was really good. Yeah. Okay, so what I want to do now is go into our this or that.
Okay.
And it's a topic or a segment that we have where we just have listeners send in this or that topics, and it's just fun. So the question is from Ashley Johnson. Thank you so much for the question, and this is it. Would you rather, this is the one for Kevin. Would you rather have all of your hair turn gray by 25, however you have your hairline and no balding for the rest of your life, or your hairline start rapidly creeping backwards by 35, yet your vanishing hair still looks youthful and healthy with waves and there's no need for a do-rag to flourish?
Oh, with the waves, huh?
Yes.
They threw that in there.
And you don't even need the do-rag to flourish. Your hair is just living its best life with no help, no juices, no berries.
My hairline vanishes at what age?
By 35. Starts creeping backwards rapidly by 35.
Or I'll be gray at 25.
Or be gray. But you're not bald.
Oh, great. Well, I have all my hair in bald.
Yeah, you turn gray by 25. However, you will have your hairline and no balding for the rest of your life. You're just all gray.
Do I have this beard?
Beard stays intact.
I gotta keep the beard. You feel me? I never really had waves like that. And I never really cared about my hair that much. Never cared to brush it.
Until it started
until it started thinning on the sides.
That's what I'm saying. So,
but as far as I never was like, oh, Kev's hair, man, that's what I like.
So you're going gray.
I'll go gray, and you like gray. You don't mind gray.
Yeah, I don't mind gray.
You don't mind gray.
Yeah,
Morgan Freeman been gray since 1966.
Yeah, that's facts.
Haven't stopped him.
The prestige.
Katina Mobley been gray for a long time. It makes him look older, but yeah.
I think that was easy. I think I would go gray too.
Yeah, I go gray. I'm not really afraid of gray.
Yeah, I'm not either.
That much.
Yeah, I'm not either. I haven't gone gray yet, so I don't know.
The going bald part.
Yeah, I think that's scarier, right?
That was way worse.
Yeah, I think so too.
I was like, bro, you ain't. Why my hairline going away? Where you got? You got to leave early.
Okay, this is for you and I. Okay. Would you rather all your edges bow out by 25 and never come back, yet your hair is flowing like milk and honey to your mid and back, or all your hair fall out by 35, yet it doesn't grow past? Wait, what? All your hair fall out by 35, but it doesn't grow past 3 inches. 3 inches, but you have a healthy hairline for all your days.
You only have 3 inches of hair?
Yeah, but it just stays short.
Oh.
I don't really care about long or short hair. Hold on. I want my edges. I'll have short hair. I just want my edges. Mm-hmm. What is your thoughts?
So I'm mixed, if you couldn't tell. And so
I couldn't tell.
Yeah.
I feel like my mixed radar is off.
The mixedness.
I just assume people are black.
Yeah.
I'd be like, how you black?
So I'm black and Latinx, particularly.
Oh, that Latinx came in heavy.
And Mexican.
You ain't said nothing with that accent. So you said, I'm black and Latinx.
Yes.
Nice.
So hair has been definitely an aspect of identity, and something that was projected.
Right.
Yeah.
And so really 2 years ago is when I took hair that was this long, because it was like my dad would always be like, don't cut your hair.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. Don't do anything with your hair. So it was always like controlled by someone else or defined by other people.
Right.
And so 2 years ago, I was like, I want my hair short. I'm going to do whatever I want with my hair. It was like reclaiming, my autonomy. And so, so now it's like, I don't even think it's 3 inches, whatever.
Actually, I don't know.
I'm a short hair wearer as well. I don't care necessarily. I care more about the health of my hair than the length of my hair.
Yeah.
So as long as it's all there, child, it could be half an inch.
Yeah. So I'm cool with
the girls in
short hair.
Wakanda was dope with the
Here
baldy.
we go, Melissa. High five.
Yes.
She had to call it out.
I'm actually considering wanting to kind of go
do
even shorter.
Every movie women want to do that, G.I. Jane and set it off. It's so empowering.
Yes.
When they cut their hair off, they're like, yeah, I'm strong.
Because society is tries to usually box us in and
Yeah,
tell us
they
what
do.
beauty is.
Us.
And that, definitely lands and affects us.
Right.
And,
Speaking of like reclaiming your autonomy and your body and your space, I want to tell you guys about Simple Health. Simple Health is a fantastic online tool that allows you to gain control of your reproductive organs by offering simple, accessible, affordable ways to get access to birth control. How it works is you simply go to simplehealth.com/lovehour. Please make sure you use the /lovehour and fill out an online health profile with your medical history, conditions, and birth control preferences. Simple Health is designed by doctors, and every patient is carefully reviewed by a doctor, so they're bringing the doctor's office to you, meaning you can skip the hassle of appointments and pharmacy lines, but still get quality care. Plus, their doctors and customer care team are just a message away. Nowadays, everything is all about convenience. I want access to all the people that I need, whether that's a doctor, whether that's my food, whether that's a mental health professional. Nowadays, you could do counseling online, and they're just a text away.
There's an app for that.
There's an app for everything. And so to be able to get access to a doctor whenever you need, and it's convenient, and get your birth control sent to your home, you don't have to go to the doctor or to the pharmacy. Child, sign me up. Because time is the number one commodity you will not get back. So give me my time back. So their doctors and customer care team are just a message away. Best of all, Simple Health is free with most insurance plans, so you can pay absolutely nothing to use this service every single month. And for those of you without insurance, it is still very, very affordable. Pills start at just $15 a month, and shipping is free for every single person. That's fantastic. Making these things affordable and accessible is definitely something that I feel is important and should be like a U.S. initiative. The annual prescription is usually $20, but my listeners can try Simple Health for free. Just go to simplehealth.com/lovehour and enter the code LOVEHOUR at checkout. I want to mention that this isn't a replacement for routine checkups with your doctor. You still need those for overall health. Speaking of which, if you haven't done an annual exam, which child, I need to go see my own doctor for that. But it is very important that you get your annual checkups. That's how you get ahead of cancer and that kind of thing. Early detection is the best way for recovery. I want to mention again that this is not a replacement for routine checkups with your doctor. You still need those for your overall health, but it is the most convenient and comfortable way to get birth control. Try a better way to get birth control with Simple Health by going to simplehealth.com/lovehour or just enter LOVEHOUR at checkout. Give it a try and thank me later. Okay, so speaking of kids, child. Some of us got them. We didn't go to simplehealth.com/lovehour and get on that good old birth control. So we got these children running around.
We might have thought we were on birth control.
And it failed.
And then what happened was?
That's what happened with my life twice.
Hello? So the number one reason why I wanted to bring Melissa on the show, if this is your first time listening to the Love Hour, kind of give you a history on Kevin and I upbringing. So we both grew up very churchy, and as churchy as we grew up, I mean, this isn't like, I don't think that, I mean, I could say this pretty confidently. Churches aren't out here like maliciously giving out this information. You know what I mean? They don't understand. One of the things you just said is if that behavior wasn't modeled for you, you can't then give it out. So I'm sure our pastors' wives, our parents
are people, pastors are people. I told my son yesterday, parents are people. We make mistakes. You do what you think is best at the time you think that is best.
Absolutely.
And I don't ever think any pastor that I lived under was like, I'm going to teach you wrong on purpose.
Right.
I think what I think happened is we put so much into the pastor. We wanted them to be our therapist, our financial advisor, our sex ed, and some people, nobody's trained well versed in all that stuff. So they understand the Bible as they understand and life as they understand, and they more than likely are just teaching what they're taught. So until somebody else comes and says, hey man, I don't even know if we need to be doing this or that, but that time came after we were children.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it was abstinence only.
Right. Well, and more than just like the abstinence tip, I think it was more so that it breeded a culture of shame.
Yeah.
Yes.
It breeded a culture
shame
of
wizard.
guilt. And so
and inequitably, if you have a penis or if you have a vulva, if you're a boy or a girl, man or woman, it's very different.
Yes.
Now you went with vulva instead of vagina.
I did.
I know why.
Go on that vulva.
Do we want to go there?
Go for it. I'm going to be. Well, hold on. I want to make sure I get my thing out, Kev. You're deterring the conversation. But one of the things I think is I want to make sure we have I want to make sure we have a clear time story that we're telling. But one of the things that I think is so interesting is that I actually got your name from Shamira.
Yeah, she says hello.
Yeah, I love her. She's
amazing. Just an amazing soul.
I just adore her. But anyway, after her episode, I went on this kick of understanding the anatomy of my body. Yeah. And to be honest, I was quite embarrassed because I was 35. I just turned 36. And I'm like, you mean to tell me the vulva's the outside and the vagina's not the... how come I don't know these things?
We've been lied to.
Hoodwink.
It's not your fault.
Bamboozle.
I still was very embarrassed to not know. You know what I mean?
I hear that.
And so, so tell him now.
Yeah. So you did well. That's a great segue. So the vulva are the external genitalia,
right? the labia, the lips.
So the labia, which are the lips. You have the outer lips and the inner lips,
and the minora,
right? Yeah. And we actually are kind of moving away in sex ed from that language. That was great.
Lips?
I love it. No, not from the from the minora and majora.
Oh, tell us why.
And that aspect is just kind of because
is that lip shaming? Big lips, little lips.
It can be. Yes, exactly.
Do the minora feel hey, we're just as valuable even though we're small lips?
Everybody is unique. So labia are all unique, and you may have some labia the majora that may actually be smaller than the minora. And so yeah, there's a lot, there's a lot in terms of like creating inclusive language and spaces when we talk about these topics to minimize the shame and the stigma. So, but yeah, so we got the labia, we got the mons pubis. The mons pubis is that part that usually has pubic hair growing, so it's that upper part. Then you have the clit, which the clitoris, which I have.
Is that what's on your necklace?
Yes.
So
I always have clits around my neck. Yeah.
I love it. And when we were in Amsterdam, was it? And I saw a picture of something, and I was like, yeah.
It did look like a vulva.
Yeah. Yeah, Amsterdam's a great place for sex positivity.
Man, what?
Yeah.
I just told
you talk about a rude awakening.
If you were in my book club, you heard our stories about. I only told one story about Amsterdam, and it was nobody was incriminated. How about that?
Mom's in there.
I know. Actually, I think she left anyways.
Yo, I'm out of here.
But believe me, it wasn't. It was a toned down version, very tamed version. But I agree with you that Amsterdam is quite
free,
eye opening.
Yeah.
I listen. I'm gonna tell a quick story. I don't want to deter.
Okay.
We didn't know how I thought the red light district was a street.
Right.
I thought you had to go all the way to the red light district.
That's what I was trying to say.
Unaware. So we looking for food. We just rummaging around. You turn on a corner, there's a woman of the night. She's like gyrating at you, and across the street they're selling crepes. Literally, they're like, "Do you want vagine or vulva, or do you want Nutella?"
Kev, you got to go one.
A nut or Nutella?
It's lady of the night, crepes, cocaine.
Yeah. Oh, we can't even get to the drugs, and then just French fries, all for sale next to each other. Like, hey man, after you get that, you gonna be hungry?
Yeah,
we got waffles. Yeah,
I
was like, Jesus,
quite entertaining.
Yes.
So anyway, go ahead.
The vagina. So then we have the vagina. The vagina is going to be the internal canal, and it tends to be in our culture centered around birthing and reproduction.
Vaginal canal,
right? But that doesn't serve that for everyone, right? It doesn't serve that for everyone that has one. So.
I get that. Right.
Not everyone is going to have kids. Not everyone's going to have penetrative sex, right? By a penis, and so it's shifting our language to ensure that we're clear about our bodies and the bodies of others, and then kind of going to young people and children. It's so important that we're talking about all bodies when we're talking with our children, that we're not just siloing conversations with, well, this child has a penis, therefore I'm only going to talk about bodies with penises. And
really?
things.
I should talk to my children about vulva?
Absolutely. And
what would I say? Menstruation?
Okay, so let's go straight there. Let's talk like right there. Yeah. How are we framing and having these conversations with our kids? As an example, I have 2 boys. Having a conversation about menstruation with my boys, like how to approach that conversation, and then even going a little bit deeper. Pun not intended.
Vaginal canal.
But
some may be shallow.
That's
we're not
true.
Shaming, right?
We're not shaming
the length.
All canals matter.
They're all good.
All canals matter. About what's the value there? Like explaining like the importance of having that conversation. Like what does that do for, again, to young men?
Right. So if we're really wanting to disrupt shame in our culture, and especially, we're in a time right now where reproductive health, reproductive justice, right? So we have people right now that are making decisions about bodies, and they're making it from a less informed place. They have no buy-in, no skin in the game, around it. There are folks with penises that don't have
in the game.
vulvas.
This is so good because
may or may not, right?
There is I want you. Oh man, I want to do 2 parts. I already know.
So many things.
Yes, there is a. Don't be incriminating, Melissa. There is a person that I'm friends with on social media, and he created this thread, and it was surrounding the idea of why women were saying that it was wrong for men in these positions to create laws that regulate women's bodies when, his example, there's laws out there about seatbelts. And that regulates all bodies, and it's a safety and this, that, and the third. So what I wanted to say is that some things, this is what I find. There are some things as a woman I feel like I just intrinsically understand and like can understand like this is wrong, but I don't know that I have the language all the time to like explain that to a man who comes from this perspective of like straight logic. And it's like, you realize these are not the same things.
Yeah. But,
okay, go.
But the moment you start talking about birth control for men, right, for folks with penises, the moment you start talking about vasectomies, right, trying to do something with their body and their parts, and that this just goes again back to this society, this culture that has elevated and prioritized men and maleness over and at the expense of women.
At the expense of
right, and women bodies or female bodies, and so so this is where it starts early. If we want to shift this, if we want to change this, if we want to create some better empathy in our young people, so that they can understand. Yeah, so we need to help our young, because I have a 9-year-old son and a 5-year-old bonus son, and so helping them to understand that the world outside of themselves is super important, right?
That's actually a great place to start with overall understanding the world is like, there's more than you, the way you look, think, act. There's
or the way
other
you
people,
were designed.
or the way you were designed. And I didn't think about that ever.
Yeah.
And that is a great place for empathy too.
Yeah.
As soon as you start understanding like it's more than just you. It's it's more than that.
Yeah.
Then you can create that empathy.
Right.
So how do you model those conversations?
Yeah. So my 9-year-old, my 5-year-old, even so, 5-year-old, we were at Starbucks one time, and it was just he and I didn't feel comfortable just having him, like stand outside while I changed my menstrual cup, so came into this, they have big bathrooms. Yeah. Oh, you use menstrual cup
I
too?
do.
Hey, now.
I just got it down. I'm
Changed
so
my
excited.
life.
Oh, they're fantastic.
Right. And they've been around.
That's what I just told Kevin.
We just have been repressed and held back from these resources and these tools.
Have you ever used one?
I've never had.
Oh.
I'm nervous too, but I want.
Yeah,
You
no,
should.
It's it makes sense to feel nervous about it.
I'm sorry.
It makes sense to feel nervous.
No, I don't like it.
Yeah,
if you've never used one and you're a woman, I highly recommend that you do. I find them to be better.
yes.
I didn't want to gross you guys out,
there
but
are
they're
health
better.
benefits to it.
That was my number one thing. I am a super oh my God, I'm going to get toxic shock syndrome. Like it freaks me out.
Yes,
and it always has.
To live with that fear. Like we've been trained to fear that component and to see periods and menstruation as dirty, as, disgusting as our bodies, and we smell. But then what you learn when you use menstrual cups is that the smell, any indication of smell, was often a reaction of the bodily fluids intersecting with the tampon or the pad.
Really?
And the chemicals that they're using.
That are toxic. They're toxic, right?
Wow.
So it's best if you are going to use those products, then you want to find organic products and organic versions, which now you can find those pretty accessibly. But that's a whole nother conversation, is accessibility around menstrual products. But yeah, just the fact to have that cup gives you that ability even to get more connected with your body.
Oh, so listen,
right?
Total side note, but I'm so excited.
Yeah.
So part of the sorry, Joshua, I don't know.
Don't apologize. Okay. We're open to the discussion about your body.
Joshua's here like...
I always feel like in our marriage, Melissa is more fearful, weirded out about it than I am. I'm like, you making it weird. I'm not tripping.
Because
tripping. I'm not tripping.
I do, because I do feel that like that's a shame and dirty and I don't want my husband to see that. And so I don't know, I have a whole complex about it. It is.
We've been conditioned to see things in secrecy and in silence when it comes to what's going on with our bodies. But like you can go into bathroom stalls and you might see drawn, like pictures.
We were watching Euphoria last night. I was like,
man,
oh, y'all going all
hold on a second.
Y'all going all the way in. Okay.
Let me tell you what, before we're all off, because I wanted to hear the story about your son and Starbucks. Let's just pause.
Let's do the exciting thing.
I actually was going to make this video today. We watched 2 episodes of Euphoria, and I was about to homeschool my children. I was like, man, what?
Yeah.
Because my high school experience was not like that at all. Yeah. So to see that, I'm like, bro, y'all be going through.
Yeah, it was different.
Like it was very much wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, let me tell this story.
It is sensationalized in there.
It is.
Of course,
I teach in high schools and middle schools around sex ed, and they are seeing these things. They're having these conversations. They've got this.
Yeah. So
they're
true.
on Pornhub,
So
right?
true.
They're there, and so how are we
Pornhub was on the
preparing
site
them?
on Euphoria.
Yeah, so how are we preparing them to understand what's going on in the world around them, right? How are we giving them that framing? We cannot shelter them. The homeschooling will only last for so long.
You already told me I can't do what I want to do.
You can homeschool them and just be aware. Again, you still need to be having conversations with them, right?
Never mind. I'll put them out in the world.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't even want to tell my story. I want to go back into like framing this conversation. But before we do that, I wanted to go back to Euphoria because one of the things that they don't have or we didn't see in Euphoria was school lunch.
No.
At all.
Drugs, penises, but no school
all of
lunch.
that because it's not grounded in real life. But in real life, you have to cook.
Yes.
And one of the things that makes it easy to cook is Green Chef.
Woo!
Green Chef is amazing because,
Love it.
again, convenience.
You know what I love about it? Even the convenience is so important. We toured, literally, I've been on tour
Since January 20-something.
And we stayed in nice hotels all over the world. But there's no food like home-cooked food on your stove.
The last time what we got was the flatbread pizza. Super simple, very easy to make. Actually, Greg is now a fan. Greg, you're a fan of Green Chef? He said very much so. And part of the reason is because sometimes men's don't be knowing how to cook.
I don't.
And so to have a recipe card with pictures and pre-portioned seasonings makes it easy. Men, plan a date
It's
night.
nearly impossible to mess up.
At home date night for your wife. Get Green Chef there. Get you a glass of wine. Child, you got a whole situation there that might work in your whole entire favor. And this is the thing about, yes, it may end in the shirt. This is the thing that's great about it. They have meal plans that are inclusive for everyone. They have paleo, they have vegan, they have vegetarian, pescatarian, keto, gluten-free, and omnivore options. You can get it for a family. You can get two people. It's all different types of customizable. This is what we want. Everything is hand-picked and delivered right to your door. Recipes include pre-made measured sauces, dressings, spices, and you can do all the things in less time. Enjoy clean ingredients you trust, seasonally sourced for peak freshness with Green Chef. For a total of $75 off, that's $25 off your first 3 boxes, go to greenchef.us/LoveHour75.
Love Hour 75.
Listen, people, this is greenchef.us/LoveHour75.
Love Hour 75.
Again, for a total of $75 off, that's $25 off each of your first 3 boxes, go to greenchef.us/LoveHour75. Again, greenchef.us/LoveHour75.
Love Hour 75.
And of course, we want to tell you about our friends over at Lola. They are in our Love Hour starter package. This is great. Lola has organic cotton tampons, pads, liners. They have sex juice, which is called lube.
But I kind of like sex juice.
Lube. Help me, Jesus. We talked about Amsterdam. It's just a lot that's happening right now. And so we just talked about the organic. If you're fearful of the toxins that you're potentially putting in your body, definitely look into organic lines of menstrual products such as Lola. Lola's subscription is fully customizable. You can choose your mix of products, mix of absorbency, number of boxes, and frequency of delivery. Lola's subscription is super flexible. You can change, skip, or cancel your subscription at any time. Lola is known for its line of period products made with organic cotton. Lola additionally offers sex products made with women in mind. I love products made with women in mind. Sex for Lola is a line of gynecologist-approved sexual health and wellness products, lubricated condoms, personal lubricants, and cleansing wipes designed first and foremost for women. The Sex by Lola line is available for subscription. You can add to your period subscription, so everything is conveniently delivered to your door at your ideal schedule. We have used the lubrication. I should try their line of cotton organic. I'll try it and let y'all know. Until now, our only options have been products aggressively marketed toward men and their desires. What about our needs? What about women? At Lola, a woman comes first. You should be empowered to make decisions about your sex life. For 40% off your first month subscription, visit mylola.com and enter Love Hour when you subscribe. You're going to visit mylola.com and enter Love Hour when you subscribe. Okay, child, that was a good segue. We talked about sex there. We talked about tampons. We talked about all the things.
I want to go back to your son in Starbucks.
Yes, that's where I want to go.
Okay. Yeah. So, it was what could seem like a dilemma was that, I'm menstruating and need to change my cup out. And for cup users, it is not the same thing as having tampons and potentially, just throwing it away and then inserting another one. You got to wash this thing out. It's the most. And so I had that moment where I was like, this is going to be a time where I know he's going to be watching and looking, because we're really big on not imposing shame. And so having an openness, I didn't want to say, turn around and all of that, because all of those things can send messages.
Because kids are curious by nature. You actually teach them not to be curious. Exactly. And they don't mean any harm. They're literally just asking questions like, oh, so what's up with that? What's up with that cup?
And we don't want to shut them down. We don't want to shut that curiosity down, because it's a way to keep them safer.
Yeah.
We want them to know how to speak up and advocate and talk about things that they're curious about, because then they can identify when something doesn't feel right. Mm-hmm. And so then, sure enough, he was just standing there, and I'm just doing my thing, and then he asked, what are you doing? And I said, I'm changing my menstrual cup. And then I said, my menstrual cup, I bleed, once a month for a few days, because my uterus, which he knows about the uterus, because we've talked about that when we talk about because where babies come from questions. Mm-hmm. They're curiosities, so he knows that babies don't grow from tummies from the stomach, because acid and that they grow out of uteruses. And so I say, each month when I'm not having a baby, I bleed, because that blood would have been the safe place for that fetus to grow. And so just matter-of-factly, and I'm just washing it out, and all that stuff. And he's like, okay,
You explained it like you put gas in a car. Like,
right?
when I need to put gas in the car, it runs out, you put it in, and the car keeps going.
It's only awkward if you make it awkward.
It's only awkward if you make it awkward.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. So, and then, yes, if you're having that conversation with them when they're, 11, 12, 13, 14, by then they've received all kinds of other messages from the world. They've already picked up on your own discomfort or not around these things.
Yeah.
They pick up on what is acceptable or safe or right to talk about or to be around. I don't know if anyone else here grew up this way, but I had to turn around when sex scenes were on the TV.
So did I.
Yeah, you had to turn around, but they didn't mute it. So you had to still listen. I had to still listen to this and act like this was not turning me on.
So you're just playing it in your mind.
Right? I'm just like, oh my God, But it creates this curiosity an untapped curiosity. I wasn't allowed to talk about it or ask about it because I could.
Untapped curiosity.
Right?
We couldn't even watch that in my house.
That wasn't happening.
We didn't even get to listen to Anita Baker.
No.
I know, it's a whole thing. Don't shame me.
I will not shame you.
All music. I need to be inclusive of all music types.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have this question. I wanted to go back really quickly. So what would you say is, is it creating empathy? Let me just ask my question. The value in having a conversation with your son about menstruation, you would say the value to that is?
Awareness. Right? So, and him knowing that bodies are not shameful, they're not something to be kept secret. And then we can have the conversations, and we do have the conversations around private parts, right? When we talk about safe and unsafe touch, all of those things. But in general, bodies are not shameful, they're natural. Mm-hmm. And bodies have functions. Mm-hmm. And so we talk about bodies in terms of functions. It's important that they know these things, mm-hmm. and then we as parents get to be the ones to instill this information and not rely on the world to teach them That's really important because, again, that curiosity will lead them to ask questions elsewhere or to seek out information elsewhere that are not trusted or informed sources.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity for you to inject your own values, whatever those, uniquely are, and you just have greater influence that way.
I like it.
When you approach their curiosities, you respond to their curiosities, and then they know that you're a safe place that they can come to no matter what the journey has.
So on the note of your being a safe space, I think all parents, we want to be that safe space for our kids to come to and have these conversations. But oftentimes we're uncomfortable ourselves, or we just simply don't know what to say. So how would you say, like, as a parent, I want to have a conversation with my kids about, let's go to sex, and I want to have a conversation with them about abstinence, or, I want it to be circling around like my moral values, but I don't want to like instill shame. I don't want to instill guilt. I don't want to have like a negative relationship with, I don't want to establish a negative relationship with sex with my child. So how do you have those conversations with them? Like, what does that conversation look like? And then, if I could just take it a little bit further so I could just let you talk, is a conversation around consent. Kevin and I had a conversation with our boys with the Me Too movement about consent, and I think we did okay, but I would love to hear like your perspective on that.
Yeah. Ooh, okay. Good questions. So ideally, the conversations are starting early and you're building a foundation around these topics. The early conversations are not going to be about sex, necessarily. The building blocks are around body awareness, just helping them to understand their bodies. And so, when you're changing them or they're bathing, these are opportunities to point out all their body parts, not just head, shoulders, knees, and toes, but
head,
vagina,
shoulders, knees, and toes, penis and
vulva.
balls.
Yeah,
For kids, for my boys, or vulva and menorah.
There's a really, really great book that
doesn't have the same ring to it because
it may not, but I feel like you could work with it.
I could work it. Head, shoulders, penis, balls, right there.
There you go.
Who cares about knees and toes, man? Them penis and balls is before you get to knees and toes.
Yeah, and I like the
meat and balls. It's the syllables.
You said
knees
that
and toes,
without laughter, right? So those things are normalizing that these are just body parts, right? And everybody, and all people have bodies, right? There's a book that I like to plug for folks, especially with younger children, by Dr. Lex Brown James, and it's these are my eyes, this is my nose, this is my vulva, these are my toes, and it's a great book. Oh yeah, vulva is in the title.
Vulva, I've been using the wrong word a lot. That's
and it's
funny.
all right.
When you put it like that, it's not. It's just these are my eyes, my nose, my vulva. Can you shorten it?
My vulva, my toes.
My vulva and my toes.
My vulva.
Oh, my vulva and my toes.
Yeah, right. So again, the more we normalize these things and get comfortable, so starting the conversations early, but really the work has to start with us as the adults, and us really, and especially if you're in any kind of partnerships, or co-parenting, raising young people. Ideally, you all are having conversations that kind of unpack and reflect on what your own sexual health journeys have involved.
Yeah,
and especially as it relates to when you were growing up. What did those conversations, if there were any, what did they look like? What did they involve?
Right.
What are the messages that you internalized about your own body, about relationships, about consent, about sex? Because you're going to bring those things into parenting.
So true.
Absolutely.
And children, from the moment they're born, we're sexual beings. One of my favorite sexologists, Michelle Hope, she says from womb to tomb, right? We're sexual beings. And it's important that we know that it's not just about sex. Sexuality is not something that we're aging into, when we're horny teenagers.
Right.
Right. It's with us lifespan. And so when we can view children as humans that are going through, a sexual journey and a sexual experience, then we shift our mindset to preparation. How can we prepare them for healthy, satisfying sex lives? If sex is something, because again, not all people desire sex, you have asexuality. Right. And so how can we prepare them for their journey, right?
I really like the framing that you just said. If you look at us as sexual beings, and it is our job to prepare our children for healthy sexual experiences later in life, or like have that healthy, then it's a completely different experience, or it's a completely different perspective than it is my job to ensure that you are a virgin until you are married.
Right. that control. So again, like policing the bodies of our children, if we get them accustomed to that, then it makes them much more vulnerable to abuse, to trauma.
Really?
Oh yes. Because again, if they're always waiting for someone else to tell them that they can speak on something, or that something or someone is safe or not, as opposed to getting them in touch with their own instincts, right? We all are born with instincts. And unfortunately, we are pulled away from that through societal conditioning and all of this, right? We're pulled away from that most often. And we rely on other people or systems to tell us, if this or that is good, or if we like that or not. It can happen a lot like at the dinner table, right? In food, and being forced to eat, past the point of being full. If you know that you're full, and if your young person knows they're full, if they've had enough, or they don't like that food, or they like this food, not creating a power struggle.
We do that with our kid.
We've done better.
We've done better, but I love him. He is literally the worst.
Just lay that out there. You love him.
When it comes to eating food, he is literally, he's not even consistent in his own likes and dislikes.
Right.
I don't like chicken next day. Oh, chicken nuggets. Listen, bro, I want to be open to your love, but you got to give me some stuff.
So true, though.
I love macaroni. 8 macaronis in a row. I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I didn't like
So he's exercising his autonomy and his right to choice in his voice.
There ain't no right to choice in here, boy. Eat this or go to bed.
Mac and cheese.
That is your choice.
And you know what?
That's what my parents did. And that's not really a true choice, because I'm hungry.
Yeah.
But if you ain't hungry for what I made, then you go to bed.
Yeah.
I can't eat that, though.
Yeah, but it sounds like y'all are figuring your way to kind of navigate
we are.
that.
Trying.
Because you're acknowledging, you kind of knew growing up under that, ways in which that might have affected your understanding of your own body.
Yeah.
So ideally, we're having these conversations, we're having this awareness early before they're teenagers, right? And so when we talk about consent is not just about sex. And consent is very much about it's permission, right? And so something that is very active in my home that I certainly didn't grow up with was when it comes to physical touch, hugs or kisses, we ask each other, may I give you a hug? May I give you a kiss? And when someone sets that boundary, so definitely, there are times when my 9-year-old doesn't want a hug, and just because I want a hug, who am I to impose my body onto him just to fulfill my desires and my needs? So if we just kind of think about that, right?
I've been doing that with my son, because he was like really like,
I know, right?
He was like, oh no, don't hug me and stuff. So then I'd be like, can I give you a hug? And he'd be like, nah. I'd be like, please. And he'd be like, no. I'd be like, no, then fine, then go to bed.
I love that. That's when they can say no to us, right? Then that prepares them.
Oh, you better say no to anybody else.
Boundary.
If you tell me no, because I'll fire on you.
Because at the end of the day, it's just a position of authority.
Yeah.
And so if you can say no to a position of authority, then you're prepared. You're prepared to do that in all aspects of your life.
They have to practice, right? So these 18 years, this is a training ground. This is a practice ground for them.
University of Life, is that in your house?
Yes. And if we're not giving them the space to do that, which means sometimes we have to step back so they can step up, right? That means that again, it's not all about our agenda all the time. And a lot of us did not grow up like that.
No, you're right.
And
it's our parents' agendas, period, point blank.
Yeah. And so I just ask folks, if I get it that we may not be comfortable with that, but how did that work out for you?
Bro.
Where might...
That's what, I know we got to say our thing.
We actually can keep going, because I think this is going to go a bit long.
Okay. One thing, I don't whoop my kids. Me and Alyssa haven't whooped our kids. We don't. And
you've never ever?
I used to.
Okay.
I remember the moment that I realized.
Former whooper.
Yeah, I was a former whooper. I remember the moment I realized it was kind of dumb. My youngest son hit my oldest son, right? So I hit my youngest son. It was like, don't hit him, and I popped him. And then I was just like,
we're all just hitting each other.
What does that teach you? If you hit him, I'm gonna hit you.
I literally had the same revelation in Europe. I said, if you hit him again, I'm gonna hit you. And I was like, girl, what?
Right. So, so on Twitter, there's always this discussion about corporal punishment and how, as Black people, we grew up and look how we turned out. We didn't turn out great, though.
We did it.
There's a lot of ways where we were failed by that, and this was a culture of parenting. This wasn't just like our parents, like me and Melissa's parents or your parents. This was like Black parents, Caribbean parents, African parents. It was like everybody raised their kids like that, about getting whooped and stuff. And then it's like, so what you end up doing, I realized, one of the Maori sisters said this on her show. She said that The reason it's easier to whoop your kids is because in order to discipline them without hitting them, it takes much more patience, much more time, much more care to take the time to explain why you shouldn't do this, and then to repeat yourself. As parents, my parents, they weren't in the business of repeating themselves.
I better not have to repeat myself.
Yes. And in order to parent, you really do have to repeat yourself because there's so many things in life that you don't get the first time, or you don't understand, or you make the same mistake.
Exactly.
So it actually makes a lot of sense that we changed a lot of that thought process because it didn't really work out for us the way we did. We say we're good and we're fine. But no.
Because then how good are we at conflict resolution? You cannot walk up into a workplace setting and just hit people because, they didn't do what you wanted them to do.
That's a good point. That only works in that dynamic. Your parent's a kid. That resolution.
Because of that power.
Because of that power.
And why are we wanting to exercise that kind of power and render them powerless?
I think it was because a lot of times we didn't have power in other places in our life, 100%. But we have power over our children.
Thank you.
So we exert a lot.
That's that generational trauma.
Yeah, and then the thing is about work, you said that.
Trauma.
Yeah.
What you thinking about, Joshua?
I'm stuck on the whole, when she was talking about setting boundaries.
Yeah.
And I feel like, because I know somebody now, I realize that they've asked somebody they first met, can I give you a hug? Just because, you never know how they're going to react. You just, put your arms out. Because, I don't necessarily know what they might have gone through in the sense of, I appreciate that boundary to be set. And then I remember she said one time that she really respects when people sets the boundary because, okay, now I understand where you're coming from. You may be more timid to affection, and because something might have happened in the past.
Exactly. Or just that day. Just might not be into it.
And that's the thing about consent.
Yes. I don't want to belabor this point, but one thing I thought, I don't know where I heard this, but someone once said on Twitter, I think it was, I don't know where I got it, but they said we don't allow children to have bad days or be in a bad mood.
Yes.
And we, at that age in our life, we have days we just don't feel like whatever. But we feel like our kids should always be happy because look what I've done for you. Look how I treated you. You should always be happy.
Used to that.
Some days they just, and we took my son he's a soccer kid, loves soccer. We were in Spain and we took him to Barcelona's stadium, right? To look around and stuff. Melissa, when I tell you this kid was just not in the mood for it. And I was like, we didn't make a big deal of it. Me, Melissa, Josh, Tahir, Zay, even Zay, who doesn't care about soccer at all, was like, I'm there. And cool. This is where they kick the ball, and this guy tries to stop the ball. Interesting sporting activities. Yeah. So, we there for 2.5 hours, and this kid had an attitude for 2 hours and 20 minutes. We're leaving, they force you through the gift shop. Melissa, in all her motherly wisdom, says, hey, would you like, after having an attitude the whole time, because my inner black parent was like, boy, if you don't understand, we brought you all the way to Spain. And the kids in Africa, I don't know what my mom's whole thing, the kids in Africa didn't gotta finish their food. We brought you all the way to Spain, this is what I'm thinking. We brought you all the way to Spain, pay this money here so you can see a stadium in the world. You know how many kids never get to see any of this? And in my mind. Didn't do any of that. We're just having a good time. We got VR stuff. I'm talking about the worst VR experience of my life.
Terrible.
We had a messy experience thing. We had tried to get him, but that didn't work out. So Melissa is like, would you like a souvenir from the store? This is full euro prices, no sales.
Wow. Yeah.
Official Barca Nike store. This kid eyes lit up. She let him get some cleats, and I was looking at her like, girl, these cleats is for sale in America for nothing. Why you gotta let him get the Barcelona cleats from the Barcelona team?
So he got some cleats. He can show them off.
He got a Barcelona water bottle, a Barcelona pencil case, a Barcelona backpack. His whole mood shifted.
Nice.
He was so happy. And then he had soccer practice yesterday. He got the backpack. He won't even use it for school.
Nope.
He's like, no, this is my soccer backpack. He wore his Barcelona bottle. Jersey. I had bought him a jersey. He acted like he wasn't excited when I bought it. And he's all excited. And now I was thinking, after she did that, he now has a positive memory from that experience. Wherein had we made that whole day worse, it would have been an entire negative experience. But now, since we didn't make a big deal about him being in a mood that day, and Melissa allowed him to feel his feelings, and then I don't want to say reward him. She just offered him a souvenir, even though he wasn't in the greatest mood. I was like, he probably is going to he's only going to remember that part.
Right.
When he tells his friends, I got a backpack and my mom let me get my cleats from there. And I'm the bougie one, but I'm not Spanish cleats bougie. I was like, fam. Because he rang us up. I was like, bruh, in euros?
Yeah.
So it was interesting as a parent.
Remember that you all were the ones that took him there, that brought him there through your effort. All of that will be attached to that too. But what you probably touched on were his love language. And just because y'all's love language might have been, this act of service, his might have been gifts.
That's true. I actually should do a love language
He's got to be gifts and quality time
for kids.
Yeah.
He has to be gifts.
Well, he's definitely quality time, but I wonder where gifts falls in there as well.
Maybe, yeah, and you can do it
is
for
something,
kids.
man.
It is. It's a lot.
I say this often as a joke, but it's absolutely true. I was trained more to put burger patties in a grill at 100%. Burger King than to raise human beings.
Absolutely.
I had to spend a week in food handlers prep. I had to take a class.
Cut loose.
They just gave me the baby. When we had Zayza like here, I was like, how do you know I know what to do with this?
Do you have a car seat?
I couldn't even get the car seat
strapped in. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Y'all trust me with this? Ain't no parents' ed. I had to take driver's ed. It's ridiculous.
You know what's funny is how much we're ill trained on is a lot of women out here don't know their bra sizes.
For real, girl.
That's a whole nother thing.
And when you don't know your bra size, child, your bras be uncomfortable. So let me tell you about my favorite bra company. Third Love. I love Third Love. I am actually going to do a giveaway. I will be giving away a Third Love bra. I think that they are phenomenal. They have their signature half cup sizes. They have bra cups that are designed to be to the specific shape, because breasts are all different shapes and stuff.
Shape of you like Ed Sheeran.
And so they're more inclusive. This is my new favorite word.
Nice.
With all of the things.
Or like boob-clusive.
We'll allow it.
Cool.
Third Love offers more than 70 sizes, including their signature half cup sizes. We know these things because I just said these things. All you have to do is take their Fit Finder quiz. It takes less than 60 seconds, and it helps you identify your breast size and shape, thus allowing you to find the perfect bra that's going to fit your body. Third Love has 100% fit guarantee. Every customer has 60 days to wear it, wash it, and put it to the test. And if you don't like it, return it. And Third Love will wash it and donate it to women in need. Returns and exchanges are free and easy. Hands down, the most comfortable bra I own. 100%. I say that. I mean that. I stand by that. Third Love knows there's a perfect bra for everyone. So right now they are offering our listeners 15% off your first order. All you have to do is go to thirdlove.com/lovehour now to find your perfect fitting bra and get 15% off your first purchase. That's thirdlove.com/lovehour for 15% off now. Okay, so we have a few listener questions.
Okay. Wait, before we get to those.
Go for it.
I want to ask a question. This wasn't on the docket, but this is on the docket for Kevin.
All right.
How do you talk to your kids about beating their meat?
Oh, masturbation.
And I'm going to tell you why.
That's my favorite.
This is actually one of the questions, so go.
Okay, here's the thing. Full disclosure, in the Christian faith, you are taught that masturbation is a sin. I don't know the specific scripture, but it talks about spilling seed. One of the brothers was spilling seed. And when I was growing up, I was like, yeah, boy, you can be out there spilling that seed. Yeah, man, you can do that. Yeah. Understand? The eyes and the lust. So when I was a boy, I was like, okay, man, can't be doing the spilling seed. Didn't stop me, though.
Right.
It only made me feel bad after I finished it, which was a lot of times my whole experience. A lot of stuff I was taught, it didn't really stop me. I was just like, heard it all before. I'll be the one to decide if I should do it or not. Tried it with dishwashing liquid the first time, by the way. I know that's not healthy. I've actually never said that out loud.
Was it for a cleanliness component? Was that?
No, my friend told me he had did it with Ajax.
Were you making bubbles?
No. Literally.
It took her 2 minutes to get that word out.
My boy was like, bro, you got to try it with this, because he had told me. So when we use it to wash our hands, I figure if it's good enough for my hands and dishes, it's good enough for my weenie. Wasn't a great experience. Didn't like it. Stayed away from it for many years as a result. Although it did get the streaks out and grease stains, no problem. But later on in life, I found somebody. It was actually a pastor who was talking about it. It was a sex positive pastor, not sex positive. But he was a pastor. Him and his wife were talking about masturbation and how you're taught. He talked about that scripture, and he was saying in context that scripture was about upholding a law where if your brother died, if I'm the younger brother, my older brother dies, and in order to keep the family lineage alive, I'm supposed to get his wife pregnant. Mm-hmm. And the spilling seed wasn't masturbating; it was pulling out and sperming on the ground instead of getting sperming your sperms on the ground instead of the woman, so you didn't have to give her a baby. Okay. And then he said, think about it. That scripture is pointing to spilling seed for men. What scripture do you point to for women? And I was like, I don't know.
Left out the conversation
totally.
As usual.
And then he said something that I don't know, and I'm not going to argue technological or seminary stuff because I didn't go to seminary. But he said, and I don't know if this is true or not, but it was funny. He said, think about it. This is a pastor, before you guys destroy me in the comments. I actually don't read a lot of comments when I say controversial stuff because I don't want to hear it. He said, you can't tickle your own feet, but you can masturbate to the finishing. If God didn't really want you to do it, why would you be able to? Right? So then it just threw me for a loop. Because a lot of things in life, you're taught one thing, you believe it your whole life. And then later on in life, when you're much older, you're challenged. Mm-hmm. And then you're just like, if I believe this, then was that wrong or this wrong? Mm-hmm. And then, so that same pastor was talking about, well, you're going to be, next thing you're going to say, which is what I was going to say, what about your eyes? You got to watch porn and masturbate. You got to do this, you got to do that. And he was like, and he was saying that everybody doesn't have to watch porn to masturbate. No. You don't have to necessarily think about impure thoughts. Sometimes you just, do what you do and you can, finish the thing. And then the thing that really wanted me to talk about it is, once my foundation was like shifted a little bit, now I know I'm gonna have to talk about this with my kids because I know their friends are gonna be talking about that, but I don't even know what to say because I don't know what I think.
Right.
Okay.
And I don't want to teach them a wrong idea just because that's what I was taught, but I also don't want to, avoid the subject entirely because that's gonna leave them to learn from their friends and TV and movies. Yes. And I also don't want to say the wrong thing. So now I ask you, a person who speaks with children a lot about this, what do I tell?
Do you come from a Christian perspective?
I do not.
Okay, so speak.
I grew up with Catholicism being
that's
infused.
More shame in Catholicism than Christianity.
Yes, and so that definitely influenced why I live the way that I live, and especially around sexual health, and because I know what it's like to have all that shame, Right. But love to talk to young people about pleasure and masturbation. Lots of different reasons why. One is that it's a safe way to enjoy pleasure and to enjoy your body, right? And when they get to know their bodies, when they get to know themselves, then they can be in a better position to invite others, right, into the party, into getting to know themselves and their body.
To the party.
Yeah, not relying on someone else to tell them what feels good. They already know for themselves. But what we need to recognize is that the penis and the vulva, particularly the clitoris, have the most nerve endings compared to other parts of our body, right? And so these are very sensitive body parts by design. And so, they're going to start touching and exploring their own body many times in infancy, right? They're touching, they're feeling around, and so those are opportunities to lay that early foundation that isn't shame-based, right? So not swatting them away or,
I've seen that happen a lot of times.
Yeah, right.
Get your hand off that man.
Yeah, because if we're sexualizing children,
right?
So that's on us. If we're sexualizing children and we're saying that them touching their own body, because when we do that, if they touch their ear, when they touch their hair, they're thumb suckers, right? So that's a self-soothing behavior that happens.
I actually heard that from, I want to make the point clear of what I hear that you're saying. I actually heard this from Esther Perel, and she was talking about, I I don't know if she used the word masturbation, but almost I think she was, where masturbation is just a matter of pleasure, and we often associate it with just sex, but she was saying that if you're just thinking about it in pleasure, that this could be masturbation. Sucking your thumb, rubbing your hair, caressing your leg. All of those things are a source of pleasure, and so it could be more than just the sexual component that we often are associated with it.
We are sexualizing it, right? So culturally, we're making a decision to sexualize something that is.
We're making a decision. I don't even think sometimes we realize that that's a choice.
Yeah, we don't realize that often, and we're perpetuating things that were taught to us, or we think that because of scripture, or again, these a lot of person-made things, is how we're then perceiving it and then leading and guiding when it comes to us mentoring, young people. But essentially, again, it's a body part that will have a pleasurable sensation, when it is touched. It's important that they know that. It's important that they're not caught off guard. It's important that they don't feel shame when they start to explore that more consciously or intentionally. There will come a point where it will be for sexual reasons or sexual purposes, but there are years before it even gets to that, right?
Right.
So it's important that we acknowledge that there are different sensations that our body's going to have. And so talking about it just matter-of-factly with genitals, and just saying, you may have already realized, that's the word I was trying to look for. You may have already realized that when you touch your penis, it might feel good. Right?
I'm hitting with that when I go home.
Yeah.
Hey, kids, you may have already realized, like Captain America in that one movie where he sat down with the chair.
Yeah.
Listen, you may have already realized that when you touch your penis, there's a sensation.
It feels good.
They're going to be like, what?
What happened?
It's perfectly normal.
It's perfectly normal.
It's perfectly
I remember one thing that was really helpful for me learning sex ed was about wet dreams. They taught me about wet dreams before I had one.
Nocturnal emissions.
And had they not, I don't know what I would have thought happened. Because I remember my parents never, brought it up. And the first time it happened, I was like, did I sin? I must sin. I did not do. I did not. I liked it.
It wasn't me.
I did like what happened. But I was like, yo, what was that? You know what I mean? And having that conversation prior to it happening made it maybe not feel weird about, I just have my innie, nocturnal emission.
My body's doing its job.
Yeah, I only had a couple of them.
Yeah, that's what we need to help them understand, is that bodies have functions, parts have functions. My body is doing its job. And it's, again, important that they understand that if they get to know what pleasure feels like for them and what feels comfortable and safe to them, then rest assured, especially when they're in their more vulnerable years, right, of potential for sexual abuse or trauma or assault, that they can set boundaries much better and much more clearly if they know what is normal and expected of their bodies.
Right.
If they don't know and they have no clue, then they won't be able to tell if someone is potentially trying to coerce them, into a certain act or a situation that doesn't feel safe.
You know what's interesting about that? When Tyler Perry talks about his, he was molested, and he talked about it. A lot of it was him. He said, I didn't know.
He didn't know.
I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know if this was wrong. And then my body was doing this. So then I felt like, well, it must be right because my body, he actually used the phrase, my body betrayed me, because he felt like this should be wrong, but my body's reacting in a different way. Maybe if we teach our children. That's the
non-congruence with your mind and your body.
Right. If we teach our children that this can happen if you do, if you touch yourself here or someone else touches you, your body will respond naturally. The same way if you try to touch your eye, your eye will blink automatically. Yeah. So your penis will, get hard if it's touched softly or whatever. But if the wrong person is doing that, then it is still wrong.
Right.
Just because your body is doing that. And I feel much more comfortable having that conversation. I never thought about this as a protection for their overall health and sexual safety. It's just, to be fair, honest, all I ever was taught is you're going to get somebody pregnant. That was the beginning and end. Don't have sex because you're going to get somebody pregnant. And I ain't going to help you take care of that baby. It wasn't even, it's just understood, And then my brother had kids early at 16. He got a girl pregnant at 15. She was born when he was at 16. And I was 13. So then it was like, oh my God, you see what's happening with him and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So I feel like that, it just taught me really to use condoms more than anything. But that fear is layered heavily when that happens. And that happened in our family and all around us. There's a girl in the 8th grade that got pregnant. It was crazy.
Yeah.
So, but I feel like your phrasing makes you, it's just teaching them about, like you would teach anything else, how a car works, how anything else works.
We prepare them for math from day one, right? Once they enter school, they're getting early math lessons all the way, to those complex math lessons. We need to be doing the same thing when it comes to talking about sexual health.
Yeah.
We need to see that these all as opportunities, as teachable moments, as building blocks that build over time. As things become more relevant and more
then
age
you get to
congruent,
complicated stuff.
then you add
But first
you
it's
add
just
more
one
elements.
block, blue block.
Exactly.
I have a question that I think it's entering my mind, so I feel like maybe our listeners might have the same question. I feel like a fear that some of us may have, I would even say that I could see myself having this fear because it entered my mind and I just kind of know better. That exposing your kids to these conversations, you may feel like you are opening the door for them to go down the path that you might accelerate the path that they're going to go down instead of where you feel like you're shielding them and therefore protecting them. So how do you balance having conversations? Obviously, they're going to be age appropriate conversations, but sometimes you feel like I don't even want to have the conversation with my kid because they shouldn't even be thinking about that. You know what I mean? Yeah. So reconciling that in your mind so you're able to prepare your child, but you don't feel like...
And prepare yourself.
And maybe that's
it. What I feel like really as your kids age, we are, as parents, me and Melissa, we play around with our kids a lot about my youngest is just, my oldest got a little bit of a mustache, youngest has arm hair. So our whole thing is stop growing older. And I feel like for me, at least, I'm not gonna put this on you, Melissa, I wanna respect your boundaries and your consent to your own thoughts.
Thank you.
But if you have these conversations, it is an acknowledgement that your kid is growing older and you're going to be losing control over them. The more they age, the less control you have as far as input. When they're babies, 2, 3, they don't go out the house. You are 100%, every input of thought comes from you. As they grow up, they have their own friends, their own thoughts, TV, movies, whatever they're watching when you're not around. And do you think it could be that for you, Liz? Because it is partly for me. I mean, I want to prepare them, but I feel like a little bit is man, you really about to be in 8th grade.
No, I don't know if it's that necessarily, as much as I would say that if my son is in 6th grade and, for example, my youngest son, he seems, my thoughts, so oblivious to things. Sometimes if we're in the car and maybe we're talking about porn or something. I remember one time we were having a discussion about porn. I can't remember what it was. And Isaiah was fully aware of what porn is. I don't even know how, because it was our first conversation. Joe was like, what's porn? What's this? What? I don't understand. What is that? And so I'm like, well, if he's still going to be my little baby, why would I even introduce that concept to him? Would I be tainting him almost because he's so... This is probably last year. Do you remember this conversation?
Nah, I don't speak of those things.
Hello, we were all
think about the Lord and His plans for my life.
I would say within the last 2 years. So he's 10 now, maybe 8 or 9.
Yeah. So, a good job for having that conversation, first off. And
I'm trying to remember why it came up.
Good job for trying to prepare for the letting go, right? And that's a process.
Abandoned Dad's Club.
Yeah, but not infantilizing. We can't infantilize our children, right? They're not property. They're other separate whole human beings.
They got my last name.
They may have your last name, but then they may not keep it. They may not want it.
What?
They may not want their last name.
I wish you would. Change your last name. Okay. I don't care if you become the world's greatest rock star and you want to go by the man. You're going to be the man -Frederick.
So that's about your ego, right? That's about your ego over their...
Kev's been getting all type of things and messages about his ego.
I'm just saying. Which is fine, as long as you acknowledge that's where that is coming from, and that's fine, right? That's fine.
You go sit on my right shoulder.
But yeah, so around the age 8, right? So they're 3rd grade, usually around that 3rd grade. They're talking about these things at school. They're exposed to that. Lots of them have these without restrictions. And I remember sex coming up with my 9-year-old now when he was in kindergarten.
Oh, wow.
The topic, came up just out, they're playing, because when they're in play and with each other at school, that's an opportunity for them to test some thoughts out, try some things, say some things that maybe they're not allowed to say at home or that they perceive, through the messages that they get that they're not allowed to. So it's an opportunity when we can have these conversations earlier on with them and with our influence, right, then it's an opportunity for us to plant some seeds, right, of some understanding and some knowledge and some context so that they're not relying on the external world to explain everything to them, because we don't know what they're going to be told out there on that playground, right? Yep. And there are, sadly, there are a lot of young people who experience sexual trauma and who act out in different ways sexually as a result, and those things show up on playgrounds. Those things show up in classrooms, and so our children are, again, not sheltered. They're intersecting with other human beings who are having different experiences, and so it's really important that, and this isn't about being scared and afraid that, oh my gosh, they're gonna, it's not about scared, it's prepared, right? We're preparing them, we're not scaring them, and so give them the words, the knowledge, the context. When they're younger, you keep it really kind of direct, right? They're going to ask a lot of questions. If you have curious children, that's excellent feedback that you're creating a space that they feel safe. When you don't get questions, or when they seem like, and if they're pushing tween and teen and they're like, well, they just never ask, I just don't think they're thinking about that, then generally that's some ownership that we have to take as parents to say, we may not be creating an environment where they feel safe to ask these questions and talk about these things.
Wow, that just hit you right between the eyes, didn't it?
Oh, you're not asking because they don't feel safe.
Yeah.
You're not experiencing a safe space.
One phrase that you keep coming or saying, and I just wanted to get your definition on it, because as you've been talking, I've been kind of creating my own. What is your definition of sexual health? Like, what does that encompass for you?
Yeah. So sexual health, again, it's not just about sex.
Right.
So sexual health encompasses are the words, the experiences. It encompasses our understanding of our bodies, of how we relate to other people, of our value systems, how we're navigating the world as sexual beings. So it's not just one component, it's not just one aspect, and it's very much influenced by a lot of different, factors, our family values, our culture that we're around, religious or spiritual
We'll be
messaging.
talking about this in the Love Hour Live.
Yeah, so there are a lot of different influences and things that can impact sexual health.
When you have these conversations with your kids, like specifically surrounding like sexual health, let's go through like young age, tween age, high school age. What do those conversations look like?
Yeah. So when we've got infants, then during that time, that's an opportunity, for us to be having conversations with ourselves and caregivers, like what kind of cultures do we want to create within our homes around things like consent, bodies, nudity, how do we handle those kinds of things? Relationships, what kind of relationships are we, how are we modeling sexual health or health in general, or different values. And then it's the early conversations have a lot to do with body awareness. So using accurate terms to talk about bodies, not shaming them, for exploring, their own bodies. And then as they start to, and we're doing consent also. And so a lot of times, even in infancy, we're practicing consent when it comes to other people, because that's when a lot of other people may feel entitled to touch your child, or oh, they're so cute, and all of that stuff. And so those can become opportunities where we establish what culture do we want to have in our home around that people do need to ask permission, before they just go in and hug my child. I'm not wanting my child to feel like they have to hug strangers or people that they don't know. I don't want to put them in that position. And so you're thinking about those components at that age. Then as they transition into toddlerhood and as they become more vocal, then that's when you may have questions, lots of questions about the things around them. And so you're wanting to make sure that you're responsive and you're available for those questions, that you're not shutting those things down. that you're creating that safety. And then as they're transitioning into preschool, again, hygiene starts to become, a thing, because you're ideally preparing them for independent care, of their own body. And so you're talking again about what bodies are doing, functions. You're talking about consent. You're talking about friendships, right? So friendships become those early conversations around relationships, sex, intimacy that you'll have later on, right? But it starts with like, what does it mean to be a good friend? What does it mean to, again, respect the consent of others? You're also talking about instincts and helping them to understand feelings and emotions that they have. Yes.
So deep in my feelings.
We got to give them the words, right? To know, what does it mean to feel scared or afraid or worried or anxious or concerned? When we start naming our feelings and modeling that for them, then that builds their instincts. So then you're talking about safe and unsafe touch.
That was good.
That was good. She got a triple double today.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you what. I just want to pause really quickly. I love that you're going through these steps. That was really good, because one of the things that is a goal actually for me in the podcast is giving words to people's feelings. I often find that even for me, a lot of times I would feel certain ways or a certain way, and I didn't always know how to articulate that to my husband. So sometimes it just comes across that I'm angry or I have an attitude or I'm moving, you know what I mean?
Definitely comes across.
And so you don't always know. I feel lonely.
Yes.
I'm worried. I feel stressed. I feel this. I feel that. And so you act out, and most of the time those act outs are in line with that underlying emotion, the more than just like, I'm angry right now.
Right.
But you don't always know that. You don't always have that parallel. So even at a young age, being able to name those feelings for your kids, it just prepares them so much, more when they're adults and they're in these relationships and they're like, I'm just mad. I don't know why. I'm mad.
Right. And because if you're not given the space to feel, if you're shut down, and that is where like toxic masculinity, can definitely come in.
Good old TM.
The good old TM. That's where that can come in. It's like, don't cry, shut up. What you ain't got nothing to cry about.
Man.
All that stuff. Yeah, so then you repress.
So you just turn that into anger.
You turn that into anger. If you watch the new
season of Stranger Things, that's what happened to Billy.
Oof. Yeah, because then when you see other people emoting, when you see other people allowed to express themselves freely, that triggers, upset and frustration, because you've not been allowed to do that. And then you start to not access that.
We always make fun of white people for how they let their kids talk to them. Yeah. Like they yell at them or whatever. We weren't even allowed to express any feeling before even, I'm not saying we should be able to disrespect our parents by any stretch, but the line of disrespect would even giving your mom or dad an answer that they did not like was the wrong answer. Right. Even if it was the truth. Right. So now you're just like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. There's so many times your parents are just in a bad mood and they're mad at you. You talking back, you ask the question, it's so much. And you realize, like, when we try to talk to our kids, a lot of times so now me and Melissa go about this all the time. We try to be open with our kids and let them express themselves, then they just be asking too many questions. And you want so badly, like, boy, shut up and do it because I said. But we've done so much in the way that we let them understand why we do this, but then it just comes across as ungrateful because, so now my oldest, he's smart into it. Like, so today I made oatmeal for the whole family, right? And we put it in bowls. Hey, come have oatmeal ready, right? So he comes. He takes a 45-minute shower, by the way.
Yes, he did.
He said he was combing his hair in the shower. I was like, you take showers because you don't see the bills. Yeah. You take showers like the water is free.
Has no context.
No context. Yeah. So then he comes out the shower. He looking at the oatmeal. He's like, actually, I don't like that type of oatmeal. I'm grateful that you made it, but I appreciate the packet oatmeal more than that. Is it okay if I don't eat that? And I was just like, yes, it is fine. And the inner black parent in me was like, boy, if you don't eat every morsel, finishing your food, like so much of that. That's why I weigh what I weigh. Because it was instilled in me to eat all the food. Me and Tony joke about that. Tony Baker, a friend of mine, eats everything on his plate regardless of if he likes it or not. He's 42 years old. We're like, Tone, why though? Because when I was a kid, I got in trouble because I didn't eat the chicken. You 40 though. No, there's no trouble. Because me and Melissa, we be ordering stuff. If I don't like it, I don't eat it. And we don't take it for leftovers. Like, why? Because we don't want it. I don't want it now. I don't want it later. But so much of that is from childhood. Yes. Somebody telling you, you cannot leave this table until you eat everything on your plate.
So
we'd be about to throw up.
Yeah.
From Melissa was saying, I don't remember what it was she didn't like. But our parents just made her. You just had to eat it to where like I'm gonna throw up.
Yeah. So you
and I never
learn
thought
not
that
to trust your body. In that, you learn not to listen to what your body was telling you, that your body is not correct or right or worth listening to. And so, again, how are we preparing them for healthy relationships with others? Because often then you become vulnerable to abusive dynamics with others. Because you're used to someone else telling you how you feel, what you want, what you like, what you need. Is that okay? You're then in service to other people in that kind of way, as opposed to being fully attuned and aware to and feeling like you have the right to set limits and boundaries.
It's so good.
And that's in those moments we're telling them that you don't have a right to say no. Who are you to say no?
So
That's
good.
too much.
Okay, keep going down your
I just
path.
wanted to grow up and get out of it.
I know, right? Because it's too much. It's too much.
A dog just does what I say. Shut up, dog.
Why didn't someone just tell us early, right?
Man.
But yeah, so basically, yeah, then you know, you're having the conversations nowadays definitely about porn and, you know, media literacy and sexually explicit media and all of that stuff. Those things are ideally happening when they're in elementary school. Usually just, if you're going to give them a device, and especially if the device doesn't have certain restrictions, you know, built in place, and it's very hard these days, even if you think you did this or that.
So it's nearly impossible.
It is so hard.
You should still try.
Still try,
but
and also make it a collaborative thing that you do with the young person, so that they build an intrinsic understanding of responsibility and of choices that are responsible.
I think that is so good. I think when kids wild out when they get like college age, it's because they haven't.
They've
they're
been
so anxious.
I have a funny story about that.
Yes.
When I was in college, it was my first year, I realized how different people were prepared, because my mom made us wash our clothes at 11. You had to wash, fold your own clothes.
do that
we had to
with
cook
boys.
dinner. Like, we had to be able to do. She didn't make us do it all the time, but we had the skills.
But you knew how.
Yes. When I went to college, I was in line at the lunch place to put money on my card, and there was a parent there who was like, "So you give this kid, like, my kid has $40 a day to eat whatever they want." And they're like, "Yeah." She was like, "Yeah, but I saw they have like a convenience store in one of our dorms. It had like ice cream, Ben and Jerry's, you know. It was like a 7-Eleven. So she's like, "So there's ice cream available for him?" And they're like, "Yeah." She's like, "What if my son wants to eat ice cream for breakfast? How are you guys going to stop him?" And the person was just like, I don't, a stomach ache? I don't know. How do you expect us to stop this 18-year-old from eating ice cream for breakfast? That's what he wants. She was livid that you didn't stop a college freshman from eating ice cream ma'am, if he don't know by now that you shouldn't eat ice cream for breakfast, you have done him a disservice. He's gonna learn that your stomach hurts if you eat ice cream for breakfast. But I think now I'm realizing that's more of a like, you want to dictate to your kids everything, and then when they get to college, they can finally dictate. It's funny, we were talking about, because I didn't do crazy good in high school. I had like 4.0. And a lot of kids that failed got crazy good grades. And one of the teachers was like, what ends up happening is, in high school, your parents tell you to do your homework. Teachers, do your homework. Do this, do that. They remind you. And in college, nobody reminds you of anything. The teacher gets paid whether you do it or not, show up or not. And people are not able to do this stuff on their own.
You're not being micromanaged anymore.
And now they suck at it. They can't wake up their own. Okay, I've been talking too long.
No, that
was good.
That is excellent. I can say again, having a college-aged young person, like doing the preparatory work early, absolutely. My young person, I couldn't tell you unless she tells me, you know, what are her grades, you know, what did she do this day versus that day, what club she's in and all this stuff, until she tells me, because she's living a life that she guides and directs, because I trust her.
Do you pay for it though?
No. Not fully. No, yeah, she's on scholarships and she's got some financial aid and all of that stuff. And I think, and I will say this, I think to some degree that can be helpful when they're not just having everything just handed to them, right?
Take some ownership in it.
They've got to have. So when like she started driving, for example, you know, we weren't paying for like the car and the gas, and you know, she had to make payments and pay for her gas and all of that. And so,
you want to go somewhere, pay for it.
Well, yeah, right.
Yeah, because that's how life is.
It wasn't from a punishment standpoint, right?
It's preparatory.
It's just like, okay, okay, well, how are you going to have gas to go where you want to go? Let's talk about it. Let's problem solve together. What are your thoughts? Like they need to be invested in the life that they want to live. It's not our lives that they're living.
Right.
And so again, more we can move away from ego, the more we can see that they're on a journey that's uniquely theirs, and it's just our role for the time that we're with them to help prepare them, to help share some insights. Right.
Just help prepare you.
It's actually when you have that kind of mindset, you actually can have a lot more like hands-off, experience, and they get to fly, they get to flourish because they're not then motivated by something that's unnatural, which is whether mom or dad is going to be mad at me or not. And fear.
I learned that early with even sports. Like, I wanted both of my kids to play sports, dominate. Because I was such a dominator in my mind, not actually on the field. But I wanted to play basketball because I did, and football. I put my son in football, my oldest son. When I tell you this kid has not a competitive ounce of juice in his body. He was in Washington playing flag football with his hands in his sweatshirt. And I was like, how are you going to pull the flag out? He was like, I'm not. It's cold. I didn't even ask to be on this team. It's raining. I'm not doing it. We put him in soccer a couple years ago. They were in the playoff game. My youngest son is competitive to the bone like I am. Oldest son was standing in the sun had moved and there was a shaded corner. They're in the playoffs, the game tied. He took a break and was standing in the shade. We're like, what are you doing? He's like, it's hot over there.
He's not.
So we took him. He's like, I'm not really sports like that. My youngest son is sports out of this. And that was the first parent thing that I realized, oh, that's not really their thing like that. Yeah. That's my thing. And then the funny thing is, I was trying to impose sports on them. They took after me in other ways. My oldest son is creative like I am, and he works like animating and stuff. And my youngest son said he wants to be a comedian. So I was forcing them to play basketball to be like me. They want to be like me, what I really am. I ain't even in the NBA.
Right.
They was hating because my coach didn't play me because it was politics.
Right.
But, but it's just like, I think a lot of parents, ours included, we start with ownership. You are my child.
Yes.
This for your life ain't even yours.
You're representative of me.
Yes. You act right in public because you reflect me.
You're an extension.
This is my house. Ain't no privacy.
Right.
You don't lock your door in your room. This is my door. Until you know how many times I heard until you pay. You don't have no say so till you pay bills.
Yep.
You literally do not matter. Do you got McDonald's money? Then you can't even desire McDonald's. That's what we're teaching our babies.
Yes.
On the sexual health, reproductive health, digestive health. Amen.
Digestive.
If you want McDonald's, you must be able to pay for said McDonald's.
Right.
But what we're teaching them is they don't love themselves.
There you go.
And we don't love them.
So then when they are 18, 19, 20, whatever that looks like for them, and they have to pay bills, they have to navigate relationships, but they're don't have the skills, and we are like on a cruise, cut them off, like we're done.
All right, you 18, my boy.
You know, right? And we're not preparing them for navigating their lives.
You're good at this,
that
Melissa.
are theirs. Oh, thank
I
you.
like it.
Thank you. Y'all are good at what y'all doing.
Melissa's really good.
I want to say this, that receiving this invitation meant a lot because the work that you all are doing is very heart-centered, and I can tell, and I'm so happy to know that parents like you all are out there and that you all are using a platform to help support other families in relationship, in parenting, because that's what we need. We have to keep challenging these narratives, and sometimes we have to see examples of what that even looks like.
Yes.
So I just want to say that I appreciate what y'all do in this world.
I want to say thank you so much and allowing us to have this conversation long. I think it was necessary because I think people like to just I want to make sure you had the platform to talk. And thank you so much she's from Austin, Texas. So from flying out,
thank you
coming out,
bringing me.
Thank you. She brought us shirts. We have our shirts.
Sex
and she got me a Beyonce calendar, a Beyonce candle, and an air freshener.
So you guys are like totally besties now because Melissa believes that Beyonce is a bigger brand than Disney.
Listen, I don't know why y'all let me say them words out of my mouth.
We were trying to stop you. That was the whole thing.
I was like, okay. Y'all gotta tell me to shut up sometimes, girl. I don't hear talking talking nonsense. What's funny about that, just really quickly, is people on Twitter didn't realize on Instagram I was wrong. I got to shut up sometimes. People were just going off in the comments tagging me. I'm not finna go out back and forth with you. I ain't got time. Anyways, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I definitely learned some things. I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation as well. Tell them where they can reach you.
Yeah. So sexpositivefamilies.com is the website. Tons of resources that help you raise sexually healthy children and support sexual health in your family. You can find us on Instagram at sexpositive_families. And we're also on Facebook at sexpositivefamilies. So we have a community of amazing parents, caring adults, and professionals out there that are committed to doing better than they had when they were growing up.
So when we have you back, we can talk about nudes not being a dirty word and the openness of your body expressing that and sharing
She
that
only talks to children.
with your husband.
Okay.
Maybe too. I mean, children become adults, become women.
Children.
So.
Thank you again so very much. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you so much to our sponsors, Lola, Green Chef, Third Love. I'm missing the first one. Simple Health. Thank you guys so much for sponsoring the podcast. Don't forget that supporting our sponsors is supporting the podcast. The podcast is free to you, but it is ad supported. So thank you guys so much for your help. Don't forget that the Love Hour conference is coming. I'm going out to Atlanta this week where we will be doing all types of things. I'll be doing some behind the scenes stuff. If you're interested in registering, the link to that will be in the description box. I think that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much. Until next time. Bye.
Bye, cuz.